to your cathedral. I'm Father Greg Sakowitz. Old Charlie passes away. He's the meanest person in town. The priest about to bury him with his homily at Mass says to the congregation, before I begin my homily, can someone say something good about Charlie, though he was so mean his whole life? Absolute silence. The priest says, let me ask you again, can somebody in this congregation please say something nice about Charlie? Absolute silence. The priest says for the third time, unless someone gets up here and says something nice about Charlie, we'll begin 10 rosaries. A little old man in the back of the church yells out, his brother was worse. I've always liked that joke. Special thanks again to Mark Teresi, the Golden Voice. Week in and week out, Mark's been singing since he was a teenager. Again, Mark, thank you very, very much once again. Directed by or assisted with David Jonas, our director of music here at the Cathedral, music director. Does a great job, great team player. So David and Mark, thank you very much. Special thanks again to Father Mark Smolka, producer, who does marvelous work week in and week out, does all the B-roll, does such a great job. It was really his idea. We kind of teamed up together a half a year ago with these weekly spiritual videos connected with music. So Father Mark, thank you very, very much. I really enjoy doing these, and God bless all of you. A man in New York calls his son in Chicago 3 days before Christmas and says, I hate to ruin your day, son, but I have to tell you that your mother and I are divorcing. 45 years of absolute misery. I've had enough. Dad, you're doing what? The son screams. We can't stand the sight of each other any longer, the father says. We're sick of each other, and I'm sick of talking about it. So call your sister in Detroit, and so you tell her. Frantically, the son calls his sister, who explodes on the phone. What? They're getting divorced? That's impossible. I'll take care of this. So the daughter calls the parents immediately and pleads with her father, you are not getting divorced. I'll say it again, you're not getting divorced. Don't do a single thing until I get there. I'm calling my brother back, and we'll be there tomorrow. Until then, don't do a thing. We're both catching a plane. We'll see you tomorrow. Do you hear me? And she hangs up. The old man hangs up the phone, turns to his wife, and says, honey, all done. It worked. They bought the story. They're both coming for Christmas, and they're paying their own way. Smart mom and dad. I look at the word compassion, and the word compassion from the Greek means, translated, to suffer with. Compassion means to suffer with. They say about you, you are a compassionate person. They've given you a complete, wonderful, high praise compliment. Also in dictionary, compassion means mercy, sympathetic, or kindness, but from the Greek originally, to suffer with. Definitions are nice, but compassion is best defined in action. Listen to this true story. The famous anthropologist Margaret Mead was once asked, what marked the first sign of civilization in a given culture? The questioner expected the answer to be something like tools, a craft, or art form. But Dr. Mead's answer surprised everyone. She said, the first signs of civilization in a given culture, a healed femur. A healed femur. And she went on to say that she explained that no heel bones were found where the law of the survival of the fittest reigned. Why? A heel bone shows that someone had to do the injured person's hunting and gathering until that injury was healed. So it goes back to compassion. Someone had to care enough to provide for the wounded and the hurt so the individual could heal. Compassion, to suffer with, Dr. Mead said, is the first sign of civilization. Caring about another person, putting ourselves second for the sake of another, seeking what is good and right for someone else, regardless of the cost or impact upon us, is not only the first mark of civilization, but the heart of the gospel. The gospel means good news. The parable in this weekend's readings in the gospel of the generous landowner challenges us to dare to be as generous in our compassion to others as God's compassion and generosity for each and every one of us. You know, the purpose of Jesus' story in the gospel this weekend of the generous landowner is not to illustrate an unfair action by an unfair owner. The very opposite is true. It's to illustrate God's generosity. It's to illustrate God's generosity, kindness, compassion. The punchline of the story is the farmer's question: are you jealous because I'm generous? Are you jealous because I'm generous? The farmer knew that if he paid the later workers for the time they actually worked, they wouldn't have enough money for that day's work to provide for their family. So he gave them a full day's wage so the family could eat well for that day. Question for all of us: do I sometimes tend to have tunnel vision and see only my world and no one else's? Or second question, does life always have to be on my terms, my way? Why do we sometimes fail to trust God on His word? Why are sometimes we caught in tunnel vision? Why do we struggle to sometimes want to fit life on my terms, my way? We listen in Paul to the Corinthians, or Paul today from the Philippians. To me, life means Christ. Conduct yourselves in a way worthy of the gospel of Christ. Paul to the Philippians today. We need to place ourselves before the Lord and ask for the Lord's strength and presence in order to bring out what is there in our lives as Christians. You know, being first or last is not the issue. God loves for us, and His love for each one of us is not based upon what we do, but God loves us for who we are. And not all of our accomplishments. Accomplishments are nice, but God loves us unconditionally for who we are. Jesus, the healer. Jesus, the forgiver, unconditionally. Jesus, the lover. Jesus, the one who affirms. Jesus affirmed people. But He always invited and challenged growth, conversion, and compassion. I'll say it again. Jesus truly affirmed people, but He always invited and challenged growth, conversion, and compassion. It's only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. What we will become in the end will be just more and more we're trying and deciding to be right now. This is interesting about every human being. There's a great battle that rages inside every person. One side is the soaring eagle. Everything the eagle stands for is good and true and beautiful. The eagle soars above the clouds. Even though it dips down into the valleys, the eagle always builds its nest on mountaintops. The eagle feeds on dreams, possibilities, and soars to new heights. The other side is the serpent. One side the eagle, within us the other side the serpent, the rattlesnake. That crafty, deceitful snake represents the worst aspects of a person, our darker side. The snake feeds upon one's downfalls, setbacks, our rationalizing, resentment, blaming others, procrastination, and the list goes on and on. Who wins this great battle in our life? None other than the one we feed. Who wins? The one we feed. William Barclay tells this wonderful story about a little girl who was with her mother for the first time in a church filled with beautiful stained glass windows like Holy Name Cathedral. The little girl looks at all the stained glass windows and says to her mom, "Mom, who are these people in these windows?" And Mom says, "Honey, they are saints." Later that week, the girl went with her mother to visit an old woman in their village. She was poor, but at one time or another, she had helped just about everybody in the village. As they left the elderly woman, the mother said to her daughter, "Well, you have just met a live saint today." The child thought about what mother had said about this elderly woman and the people in the church's stained glass windows and how they might be alike. And finally, one day, the little girl said to her mom, "Mommy, I know what a saint is. A saint is someone who lets the light of God shine through. A saint is someone who lets the light of God shine through." What a connection with that little girl, and it's so true. Winston Churchill once said, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." May the light of God always shine through each and every one of us. For what we will become in the end will be just more and more of what we are deciding and trying to be right now. What we will become in the end will be just more and more of what we are deciding and trying to be right now. May God bless all of you. Stay healthy.